On March 25, 1941, the Yugoslav leader Prince Paul agreed to the signing of the Tripartite Pact, joining the Axis powers. However, the Yugoslav people did not want to be aligned with Germany, leading to a revolt. The revolt overturned the standing government, installed Peter II as their new king, and renounced the terms of the pact. To force compliance, Germany invaded on April 6, 1941. By the 17th, Yugoslavia was conquered. Even though the Axis powers were defeated in 1945, the same internal tensions that fed the rebellion prevented the Yugoslav states from being united after the war. The Declaration of Corfu united the nations of present-day Slovenia, Croatia, Bosnia and Hertzgovinia, Serbia, Montenegro, and Macedonia into the kingdom of Serbs, Croats, and Slovenes under the leaders of Serbia. The idea was to unite all southern Slav nations. On December 1, 1918, after World War I ended, the kingdom of Serbs, Croats, and Slovenes became an independent nation. In 1929, the name was changed to the Kingdom of Yugoslavia. The uniting of these nations sparked strife between the ethnic groups because of the ethnic, religious, and cultural differences. There were also old tensions between the different peoples. The monarch government set up under the Kingdom of Serbs, Croats, and Slovenes was heavily influenced by Serbs because Serbs were the most dominant people group. Therefore, most of the decisions were made by Serbs for the benefit of Serbs, possibly at the expense of the other Yugoslav people. The other peoples of Yugoslavia resented the government for this reason. The large number of different ethnicities and their tendency to have conflict is why the Balkans are called the powder keg of Europe. In 1941, the Axis forces wanted to invade Greece, so they asked Yugoslav authorities if they could use Yugoslavia's railroads to transport German troops to Greece in order to attack it. The Axis forces, Germany, Italy, and Japan, put forward the Tripartite Pact. The terms of the Tripartite Pact were to let German troops through Yugoslavia on their way to Greece. It was signed under the leadership of Prince Paul, who was ruling as a regent over Peter II. Sources disagree about Prince Paul's motivations in allowing the signing of the Tripartite Pact. Some sources say that he was in disagreement with the signing and tried to resist the Axis forces. Others say that he was in agreement with the signing. My opinion is that he was in disagreement with the signing of the pact, but he did not really have any other choice. The military power that pressured Yugoslavia into alliance with Germany was too much to resist. Yugoslavia's forces were nothing compared to Germany's forces. Prime Minister Svetsovic was in agreement with the signing of the Tripartite Pact. He and the German leaders convinced Prince Paul to allow the signing. No matter what Prince Paul's motivations were, it was signed under his leadership. He was forced into signing it because of the pressure and threat of conquest from Germany. Prime Minister Svetsovic signs the Tripartite Pact on behalf of Yugoslavia on March 25, 1941. The public was enraged with the signing because they did not want to be aligned with the Axis forces. Since the news of Germany invading Poland in 1939 and the start of World War II was broadcast, the ever-present threat of German invasion kept growing. This threat of invasion was something everyone hoped would not happen, but as time went on, the more inevitable it seemed. On March 25, 1941, the army, trade unions, churches, and common people protest in Belgrade against the signing of the Tripartite Pact. The next day, March 26th, protests are not just in Belgrade, but have spread to all of Yugoslavia. Demonstrations show that most of Yugoslavia is against the signing of the Tripartite Pact. The public claimed that Peter II was to be their king and was of age. Peter II was 17 at the time. On March 27th, Prince Paul is exiled, former government leaders are arrested, and Peter II comes and takes the throne. Many people parade through the city streets celebrating the overthrowing of Prince Paul. This government only lasted a few days. Under Peter II, the terms of the pact are renounced. They do not let German troops through Yugoslavia. Hitler was infuriated at the rebellion of the Yugoslav people, so he issued his Directive Number 25 ordering Yugoslavia's annihilation. Hitler proclaimed Yugoslavia must be regarded as an enemy and therefore completely crushed as soon as possible. On the 6th of April, Germans invade Yugoslavia and Greece. They attack Yugoslavia with no formal declaration of war. On the same day of Germany's attack, Italy declares war on Yugoslavia. The German Air Force heavily attacks Belgrade, Serbia from the air. There was another air raid the next day. During the air raid, 7,000 Yugoslav civilians died. The air raids terrorized the Yugoslav people. The Yugoslav Air Force was no match to Germany's massive air force. The German Second Army advances from Austria and Hungary towards Belgrade. The First Armored Group advances to Nif in the north and Skopje and Montenegro in the south from Bulgaria in order to prevent the Greek army from joining up with the Yugoslav troops. The 12th Army attacks Greece against the Metaxas line and Yugoslavia to Strumica from Bulgaria. On April 13, 1941, the city of Belgrade is occupied by the Germans. The Yugoslav army is rapidly disintegrating due to the immense Axis forces. Much of Yugoslavia is falling to German and Italian occupation. By the 17th of April, all of Yugoslavia is surrendered to German, Italian, and Hungarian occupation. The people in Yugoslavia are deported and transported to different places in the country. Many of their possessions, homes, and businesses are seized by the Germans. During the later years of war, two leaders arise: Josip Broz Tito, leader of the partisans, and Mihailović, leader of the Chetniks. Both groups seek to drive out the Germans, but the leaders are allied to two different nations and want to set up different governments. Tito looks to Moscow and wants to set up a communist government, while Mihailović is allied to Britain and wants to set up a monarchy. These two groups are at war with each other. Britain switches alliances to Tito and his partisans in 1943 because the Chetniks' collaboration with the Axis powers. Tito and the partisans, with the help of the Allied forces, drive out the German troops. Eventually, Tito rises and becomes the communist dictator of the new government in Yugoslavia. He ruled from March 1945 until his death on May 4, 1980. Many Yugoslav citizens mourn the death of their beloved leader, Josip Broz Tito. They loved Tito for his effective leadership in bringing many different peoples together. The persecuted people who spoke out against him and the people who disagreed with him, disliked, or even hated him. When Tito was the communist leader of Yugoslavia, there was a brief time of peace, but after his death, old tensions started to rise up again. Tito achieved his peace by killing and imprisoning anyone who spoke out against him. This was not a true peace or freedom, but dictatorship. With no one to be an effective dictator, Yugoslavia descended into war. When Tito died, Slobodan Milosevic became the new leader. Milosevic aroused Serb nationalism, the idea that Serbs are superior to other ethnic groups, especially Albanians. He rallied the Serbs against the Albanians, who were in conflict with the Serbs over Kosovo. He actually accepted and endorsed what Tito refused to put up with. This set an example for people rallying one ethnic group against another. This strife between the different peoples fueled the separation of the Yugoslav state in the form of the Yugoslav Wars. During the Yugoslav Wars, the country of Yugoslavia was separated into the nations that were once united. The province of Kosovo seeks separation from Serbia because 90% of the people living there are Albanians and the other 10% are Serbians and other ethnic minorities. Kosovo eventually becomes its own country, and its independence is still a debated topic today. The Tripartite Pact was signed under the leadership of Prince Paul, joining Yugoslavia to the Axis powers. The public did not want alliance with the Axis forces and was afraid of Germany, so they protested. The protests led to the overthrowing of Prince Paul, the crowning of Peter II, and ignoring the terms of the pact. The revolt led Germany to invade on April 6, 1941, and Yugoslavia was occupied by April 17th. Even though the Axis powers were driven out in 1945, the same internal tensions that fed the revolt prevented the Yugoslav states from being united after the war. Despite the pre-war unity, no one person rose after Tito to reunite all the nations, nor did any one nation have the military strength to forcibly unite. To this day, Slovenia, Croatia, Bosnia and Hertzgovinia, Serbia, Montenegro, Macedonia, and Kosovo remain impoverished and separated because of the strife from ancient times that also fueled the revolt after the signing of the Tripartite Pact.